All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at a playbook, a real deal guide for anyone who wants to get involved in civic oversight, but wants to do it the right way. We're talking lawfully, effectively, and, without all the partisan noise. Let's get to it. So picture this. It's a situation that can make anyone feel kind of helpless, right? You see something happening, something that feels wrong, but what's the actual lawful move? Do you step in? Do you just record it? Do you walk away? This explainer is all about giving a clear, structured answer to that exact question. So let's take all that uncertainty and replace it with a solid framework for action. What we're going to walk through is a nonpartisan approach, really designed for any resident who wants to make a difference legally. The whole framework comes from a source called the HEAT Manual. And I think it's really important to think of it less like a political manifesto and more like a civic operating system. It's a practical tool for accountability, built from the ground up for peaceful, evidence-based action. Now, what's so powerful about this slide is the contrast it lays out. It's just night and day. On one side, you have chaotic confrontation, just unfocused outrage getting in the way. But on the other, the HEAT model gives us disciplined oversight. It's all about making that critical shift from simple outrage to actual evidence, from interference to documentation. The goal is to create factual records that can genuinely lead to change. The manual has this really catchy slogan, HEAT, the only thing to melt ice. But, and this is key, holding up that punchy phrase is a super strict, non-negotiable code of conduct, absolute nonviolence, strict legality, and a real discipline for truth. Honestly, these principles are what make the whole thing work. They make it both inclusive and incredibly powerful. Okay, so let's move on and see how this all builds into an acronym that's actually easy to remember and guides every single action you take. First up, H is for hold accountable, and the approach here is so simple. Observe, document, and report. The entire goal is to turn something you witness into an official, actionable record, something that can actually trigger a review, all without ever interfering with what's happening on the ground. Next, we've got E for educate, and this is huge. This is all about moving people from just being outraged to being competent. Because let's face it, it's not enough to be upset. The goal is to be effective. And you get there by focusing on rights literacy, knowing your rights, and process literacy, knowing the correct way to do things. Then there's A for activate. And this is where the framework becomes so accessible. It's not about some grand one-time gesture. It's about small, repeatable, totally lawful micro actions that really anyone can do each week. And those small steps, when a lot of people take them, they build into a really significant national impact. And finally, T is for turnout. But what's crucial here is that this isn't just about getting a huge crowd together. It's about achieving disciplined scale. That means everyone is working from the same training, using the same templates, and sticking to that non-negotiable code of conduct. That's how you get safe and effective participation. So, and this is such a crucial point, for this entire framework to have any credibility, for it to be legal, it has to have some very, very clear boundaries. And this slide right here perfectly illustrates those non-negotiable rules. The manual couldn't be clearer about what not to do. No touching officers, no blocking vehicles, no going into restricted areas. These rules are absolutely critical. They protect people from getting into legal trouble, and they make sure the entire oversight process stays credible. Okay, now this is probably one of the most vital pieces of information in the entire manual. Understanding the difference between these two warrants is absolutely key. So an administrative warrant, that's signed by someone at the agency. It does not, I repeat, does not let them come into your home unless you say it's okay. But a judicial warrant, that's signed by a judge, and it does authorize entry. Just knowing that difference is a huge part of protecting your rights. Okay, so you have that knowledge in your back pocket. Now let's look at how the manual gives you concrete tools to actually put all of this into practice. So if you see something and have a concern, where in the world do you send it? This decision tree takes all the guesswork out of it. If you think it's a civil rights violation, you file with the DHS Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, that's CRCL. If it seems more like employee misconduct, you go to the ICE Office of Professional Responsibility. And here's the best part. If you're not sure, the guidance is simple. Just start with CRCL. They'll figure out how to route. And to make this whole thing feel doable, the manual breaks actions down by how long they take. And this number, this is such a powerful example.
I mean, think about that. A real, meaningful act of civic oversight, like calling an elected official with a script they provide, can take just 60 seconds. That's it. It completely changes the game for what it means to be engaged.
So you've done it. You filed the complaint, or you made that 60-second call. What actually happens next? And maybe more importantly, why does it even matter? This is the question, right? This is what stops a lot of people from doing anything at all. It's that fear that your report just disappears into some bureaucratic black hole and doesn't make a lick of difference. Well, the manual is really honest and sets some very realistic expectations. You might get a confirmation number. You might get nothing at all, but, and this is the absolute key takeaway, that does not mean it was ignored. Every single complaint creates an official record. It becomes a data point. It feeds into a much larger data set that lets agencies spot patterns of misconduct, and it is those patterns that can trigger systemic reviews and lead to real, lasting policy changes. And this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. The goal isn't some single dramatic win. It's about the long-term, patient work of building power through credible evidence, a constant demand for transparency, and consistent, sustained civic participation. It is a playbook for turning those moments of feeling powerless into principled, powerful democratic action.